For more information on my programs, please visit masajadi.com. That's MASSAJADY.com.
So this is a continuation. As a rock star, who would you consider the true rock stars in any field? The true rock stars in any field necessarily, and again, this is Freddie saying it, isn't necessarily, those individuals who are popular. He didn't have a lot of faith in, especially in the political leaders or the standard quo or the rulers or authority. Let's just put it that way. Authority, because again, authority, you could see right through them as, again, full of crap. They were very insecure, having rules and laws, and so that didn't really make sense, but it was about control. Religion, politics, countries, presidents, whoever, I don't know, managers, right? So on, companies, recording labels or companies. Yeah. So he didn't have respect for them because in its truest sense, they weren't true to themselves. So why should he be true to them, right? And then why should he follow those rules and laws? So coming back, rock stars is anybody that identifies himself and abides by a higher, what I would call, say, a moral standard or code of ethics, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't drink or you don't have sex or that's a distorted moral ethic. It means that you know what you're doing. You're doing it for a purpose, and you're not trying to lose yourself. Unfortunately, he didn't abide by those moral ethics or code that he actually represented, and that's one of the things that I'm seeing, that he was very, very frustrated, especially after he comes off the drugs. It's like, holy crap! It's like, why did I do that? Well, I guess it goes for anybody, but more so for him is because he had a strict moral, say, code or ethic, which really destroyed, and that's another push or kick in the ass for him to say awaken, pull away from those people that started to say suck the life out of him. So that's what it was, sucking the life out of him. So over time, there's cockroaches, I guess you could call those people, that suck the life out of him. And since he was, that person that could provide more, well, there's a lot of cockroaches, right? And again, cockroaches, my definition, Freddies. What was I going to say? Oh, so, well, there are spiritual cockroaches that would do the same. So as he took these drugs, or got high or whatever, liquor, whatever he did, he's telling me pretty much everything. Yeah, pretty much everything. Anyway, sexually as well, and not proud of it afterward. So again, it's because of his moral ethics, which is very different than the human moral ethics. Okay, so yeah. So, just give me a second here. Again, a lot of information coming through. Oh, okay. So in over time, what happens is that, say you put yourself in an insecure position, right? People take advantage of you the same way that physical people take advantage of you, right? Very a brilliant guy, very popular. So over time, and it's interesting enough, from what I'm seeing, is that his twin would get affected by the drugs or whatever he used as well. So that identity, that spiritual space, because his twin over time got so involved in, say, Freddie's life, he was so intrigued, just like we do, right? We get so mesmerized by this reality, the density of this reality, the way we could, say, touch and feel and sense all the aspects that we can't in spirit form. He got so intrigued, he started getting, say, time bound. So not as of a pure being as they were when you were younger, just like you were, right? So again, time solidifying memories and distortions if we think you are. So over time, that twin started to get pulled into this reality. So it's almost like they merged. Oh, that's early death. Okay, that makes sense. So over time, as they merged, literally, the physicalness, right, the Freddie would have to get pulled over into that death space. Again, more so than, say, that twin that got merged. So because he has no identity, a physical identity here. So over time, again, especially with the drugs, what would happen is that, well, they both kind of merged and there was just one. There wasn't a sidekick anymore. There was no protector anymore. And then, well, since there's no protector, just like a human, right? An unconscious human, again, he kind of turned unconscious, although he would probably have an awareness somewhere deep inside, like many of us do, right, that we don't listen to, that was buried into him. So, and by the way, over time, and people would say, "Oh, it's the drugs that he, we don't even know who Freddie is anymore. He changes, his personality changes." Yeah, it could be the drugs, but more so, and I've seen this in many other cases as well, is that those two identities, the sidekick, the deep friends, right, the best brothers, they could be, well, they're merged. So one takes over the other. Hence, he would have again, multiple personalities. It's like, or you would say something to, say, his brother, and then he would come back and you would say, continue on that conversation, and he would know what you were talking about. Well, it's not because he was losing his mind. It's not because his brain's fried on drugs and so on. It's just that the identities now in one body, to kind of taking over. So that's why. So when that other identity, okay, would take over, control him, see what life is about, you talk to that identity, right? Then later on, the Freddie that we knew would come on board, so to speak, and then you would talk to Freddie. So it's like talking to two different people, and then one didn't communicate with the other. So as you got closer and as you got merged into, say, that no time space, well, if you're living in that more and more and more, you're gonna die sooner because you're having an identity of being a timeless being. So if you're a timeless being more so than a physical being, well, you can't hold on to a body. Again, the way Einstein said it, if you're resonating with a certain frequency, there's no way in hell that is not going to materialize. So in his case, that's one of the reasons why he died earlier. Then so was it about the AIDS? AIDS or a car accident or whatever else would be a component of dying early. Okay. So another aspect about that, from what he's telling me, is that, and this is very intriguing to Freddie as well, the way I see it, as I read his files, as that consciousness awakens. By the way, as I read those files, the consciousness awakens, it actually comes into a pure, say, standard or format consciousness. So that's another cool thing about it as well. That consciousness, say, expands, and when somebody who is awakened enough can expand into that consciousness. It could be, say, another so-called, say, Freddie in the future that could even be better than him. And that's, again, that's cooler. Or another Einstein or whoever, right? Without the distortions that come about it, because we're awakened human beings, so to speak, right? We're learned, we understand the physics of exponential intelligence. Now we tap into a higher consciousness that somebody's already opened, although distorted, and we go, wow, that's really some good stuff, good shit. But let's do it the right way this time. Let's do it the proper way. So, anyway, over time, the two merged. There is no control person. Right, there's no protector. So as, again, when you start to lose yourself, you start to lose control of yourself, people take advantage of you. Well, things on the other side start to notice this and start taking advantage of you. It's kind of like putting down your immune system, right? Your immune system is weak. What do? You catch a simple cold, you get sick, normal, more so than, say, normal. Same thing happened here, but it's not about getting ill, though that's part of it. It's about a higher consciousness starting to, say, invade his space, or, say, so he didn't really, say, sell his soul to the devil. Like other artists who crave to be famous and make a lot of money, right? Or a lot of politicians, or a lot of actors, or whoever, businessmen, right? They crave, right? They'll sell, they'll do anything to be famous and wealthy. Freddie didn't do that. Totally the opposite. But again, the same end result. Darkness kind of took over him. But that darkness was just, I want to say, 30, if you put it at age, I think he died, I don't know, late, or late 40s, so anyway, say, 39, 40, so that darkness kind of took over, and that's where things went kind of, went downhill with him, and started, say, possessing him or controlling him and stuff like that. So, although he tried to fight it, and that's, if you knew him, I think you would concur with me that there was always like internal fight. That's what this internal fight was about. By the way, or as some people will call, he's trying to straighten out your life. What's your relationship with the piano? While you aimed for bigger and better in the world of rock and roll in later records, why did you step back from your abilities on the piano? My abilities, not mine, but Freddie's. Freddie's abilities. He was good at any instrument once he put his mind into it. Again, he didn't really, say, step back from just the piano, but as he grew, just like anybody mastering, through just like, say, raw experience, right? Of doing, working on something over and over again, right? Repetition. He started to understand, or started to see, say, the shortcomings of a lot of the musical instruments. I think he actually, say, wanted to, or was thinking of, say, how can I design, say, better musical instruments? But then again, he was, say, flogged, or kind of shut down, because even if he could create other musical instruments, that we couldn't hear it anyway. We don't have the human capacity to hear it, so that's kind of shut him down. But he was very creative, not only in, say, design aspects, but then also almost like he could have actually created some other musical instruments, from what I'm seeing. Tell us about your involvement in the recent film Bohemian Rhapsody. What did you want the actor Rami Malek and viewers to experience or understand? So this is a very excellent question, and you know what happened in that movie is that the same way that my twin, or Freddie's twin, kind of started controlling him as he awakened after death. He started to understand. He started to understand. It's like, and by the way, it's not just me that again, not just Freddie that's awakened, but a lot of other say musicians. So I don't know why I mention it, but there's actors as well. And he attributes, well, thanks, Freddie. He attributes that to, say, my consciousness kind of awakening or putting a ripple throughout this reality. So what happens is that people who are intuitive on the other side, who are kind of awakened, and by the way, this happens all the time. It's not just famous individuals, but happens all the time. Literally, say somebody's, and I'll explain it briefly. Say somebody's close to death or on the other side, and they're kind of awakened just a bit, but not enough to understand that there's, say, a higher reality out there, right, for them, or they can't access it for some reason or the other. Somebody has a session with me. It's like, oh, your mother died a year, 10 or 20 years ago. It's like, yeah, and I can, describe their mom, but then help them awaken to a higher consciousness. So literally, it's like those individuals, that consciousness was crossed over, connects through the living person that's connected, that connects to me, and then I help them, say, awaken to more of a potential. Don't ask me why they can't awaken themselves. Freddie, can you answer that? So it's because of and again, this is Freddie's animal. Well, thanks, Freddie. This is where if you're not awakened to a certain level, you disconnect from this world, or from what I see from my standpoint, time, disconnect from this world. You literally get categorized or shelved into, say, a certain layer of reality or consciousness on the other side, and then you can't get out of that consciousness on your own, from what he's telling me. So there has to be, say, an administrator type, or somebody that could pull you out of that consciousness and go, hey, you're awakened. So again, kind of a distorted death. So in the way Freddie died, I don't want to say distorted, but kind of blocked him or locked him into that layer where he couldn't get out, but awaken. Okay? So what happens is, and this is what Freddie, oh, thanks, so sweet. It's kind of interesting. It kind of it tears me up. It's like a blessing. So let me just enjoy this moment here. Some of you might feel that too. There we go. Well, thank you. So what happens is that, so my consciousness, kind of that administrator, again, people, say, flock to me, physical people. They would go, I saw your face, or heard your name, or heard your voice. I bought a plane ticket, 14 hours to get to see you, and I don't even know why I'm here. I have that all the time happen to me at this physical, in this physical realm. Well, same stuff happens on the other side as well. So what happens is that Freddie's coming, Michael Jackson. We're going to do an interview with Michael Jackson, hopefully around his birthday, coming up. Sid, Pink Floyd, um, and again some other musicians who've kind of woken again, who've crossed over, awakened, and what's happened is that they've kind of collaborated or come into a consciousness. Again, I guess with my help. So thank you for that, or thanks for that recognition. But and now they're kind of banding together because they want to bring in a consciousness that is void of having to sell yourself to become, say, famous or become or use the talents, right, of your own right, not from, again, say, a distorted presence that will control you and use you, because you don't need to do that anymore. Maybe in the past you did, another presence comes into you, gives you a great singing voice. Many artists are that like this, by the way. You can almost see, and say another presence takes over, right? And it's like, whoa, wow, who are they? Because you're seeing, say, that darker presence. Unfortunately, it's not very good for the human form, nor the human soul or spirit. These artists are banding together. Short story, artists are banding together. And then creating a consciousness and helping other people. So, if you want a podcast, if you're a musician or a talent, you don't have to be a musician, but if you're a talent, artistic type talent, and you want to do it on your own without having to sell your soul, drop me a line again, Moss EI at mossajada.com, and maybe we could figure something out. We'll kind of bring the whole group. It might not be in the short term, because I have to understand more on how to do that. Right? And that consciousness awakens in more, say, dead artists that are awakening to the fact that, hey, we didn't have to sell ourselves. There's a better way of doing it. As they awaken, so it'll be more powerful for you as well. So, but anyway, drop me a line if you're interested on that. And by the way, this isn't just bullshit. It's not just theory or anything like that. I've helped people learn foreign languages very quickly, the piano or whatever else. Right? So I've done that before for people, validated proof. Not just one, not just random, but actual, a ton of people, or enough people. Okay? Anyway, so I'm really excited about that. By the way, the whole industry of the music industry, the modeling industry, and so on like that, acting industry, those things are all changing where it's not controlled by darkness, or having to sacrifice yourself, right, for the fortune and fame. You can do that without sacrificing yourself. So to go back to this question, yes. So Rami Malek, he almost had a vision. So if you ask Rami, and he's alive, if you can get to him, or if Rami hears this, he almost had a vision, almost an interaction, and to him, again, not understanding the mechanics, it's almost like, Freddie, if you could jump into me, how would it feel like? What would I be like? What would I do? Right? So, and Freddie, say, kind of awakening, kind of probably set up that vision of what Rami had envisioned, so to speak, right? So it's more than just a vision or a visualization, or a dream state. It literally like, hey, somebody's going to be playing me. I want to be that right person. Hence, that's why Rami got picked, because he was easier to, say, take over, infiltrate. But he did it from a proper way, from what Freddie's telling me. He did it in a clean way. So he takes over that instance of of Rami, but then also what happens is that takes over. But when it's time to let go, he actually leaves Rami a pure frequency of his own. Okay? Most people, when people take over, they don't know how to do it. But if you're an awakened being, you can actually jump into somebody, clean up people, or bring their essence. And by the way, that's part of this live conversations with dead people. I can pull into that consciousness, right? Because that consciousness is, say, wake, so to speak. Or if you want to call it Freddie, go ahead. But anyway, you jump into their presence, right? And then you leave because you're awakened. That consciousness is awakened the way I design it. Consciousness is awakened. You both get, it's a win-win situation. You both escalate yourself to a higher frequency. That consciousness, whether that person is dead or alive, still awakens. And then the living person, well, obviously awakens because it's a fresher. They're fresher because now they've been, say, integrated with a timeless being that's awakened. That's why it's an expansive space, right? In your opinion, is there a difference in recorded music and live music performance when it comes to connecting with the audience? Yes, there is, because in a live performance, obviously, you can feel the frequency, especially the way Freddie, I was going to say the way Freddie sees it, right? He really, really connects with that individual. It's almost like he can connect with each individual. And the way he does that is pretty impressive, even back when he was alive, is that, say, that twin, a twin would say, kind of the way I do it as well, is that, you can say access a timeless state, but I don't have a twin, by the way. But anyway, you access a timeless state, and you basically, you kind of manipulate time and space, and then you pull people into a higher functioning of themselves, more of their timeless being, right? So in the live audience, well, you have that where they feel it directly. In a recorded music, obviously it's harder, or a studio music, because the audience isn't there, right? Although you can get some feeling of that, because it's the way I create mastermind. So, for example, the 21 days, if you're in it, the first few days, your consciousness is, say, part of that mastermind. So basically, for Freddie, that audience would be that mastermind. So in the recorded studio, after a while, your residue, I guess, would be part of that audience, but again, it's not as powerful as, say, being live on that. So hopefully that made sense for you. So just to reiterate, more of a mastermind, pulling them into a timeless state, and then that's where that deeper connection between Freddie and the audience came about. And then on a recorded, that mastermind's been created because you listen to his music, or if you went to his concert. So that recorded music, for example, if you've never been to a Queen concert, it would feel very different to you than if you had been to a Queen concert and then listened to it. And again, it's not just because you're remembering the songs when you were there, but the bigger reason is that he could pull you up to a higher consciousness of yourself. As a frontman on stage, you were only seen as a flamboyant extrovert, yet you were also noted to be intensely shy, intensely introverted in other aspects of your life, and even admitted to loneliness. How did you balance this dichotomy, and in what ways did you use it for fuel and greater success? Talked about that. I can go into it a little more depth. Again, the way it all worked is that loneliness wasn't because well, other reasons why I explained earlier about having that twin. So he wasn't really, say, really lonely, but obviously you do get disconnected from, say, humanity or humans. So that's where that loneliness came from. How did you balance the dichotomy? I really didn't, from what he's saying. How could you? That dichotomy still existed. So didn't really balance it out. He learned to live with it, but disappointed from what he's telling me, because he couldn't find, say, quite the right individuals who were at a higher frequency. So he could, say, play with them, right? Play with that frequency of what he saw in physical form or density. So that's what really made him sad or lonely about humanity, is that there wasn't more people, say, at a higher consciousness where it's like, hey, to share his experiences of, say, of that reality that he would go into with, the wider range of colors and so on. Right? Wouldn't that be cool if you could do that? I wish I actually knew him. I bet he could take me there. Queen was integral to shattering limits in rock and roll. In this day and age, what do you see it? What do you see it would take to establish a re-renaissance, a revolution in music history that moves humanity into the Age of Enlightenment? Well, we talked about that. So that's when, again, these dead, awakened musicians, they're awakening up to that consciousness, a higher consciousness, purification. So those musicians are literally available for you in the future. As soon as we figure out how to do that in the future, to help you, say, bring in, and they're really eagerly waiting, because they do want to say start to create a new music revolution. Again, the key is that it comes from a pure frequency. That's what it's all about. Even I think Bob Dylan said in his older age, I sold myself to the devil. So a lot of people, by the way, are saying that. So in this case, you don't have to do that. So they're eagerly waiting to train you, and hopefully in the near future. Not anytime this year, 2019. So from that, what'll happen is that the meshing of the knowledge or the consciousness that I described, it'd be people who have the right traits can easily, not easily, can, say, access through a certain protocol, a consciousness. So for faster, more enlightened type music. So as the music changes, what happens is that people listen to that music, people get enlightened from it, they start to awaken from it. This is how, again, another access on, or another, another avenue on, say, awakening the consciousness of humanity. What did you value most in life? You once said that you'd do it differently if you could do it all over again. Please tell us how you would do it differently. Well, now that he's awakened, he's telling me that he loved the identity, he loved what happened, and so on like that. But if he had to do differently, he would have awakened or understand the fact that there was a twin with him, right off the get-go. He would understand, say, the mechanics that I described to him right off the get-go. So imagine if you knew that right in the beginning, and as you grew and expanded from it, well, if you knew what was going on, what was really happening, you wouldn't go through the turmoils, the tribulations, the loneliness, the drug addictions, and all those things that people go through, because they would understand themselves at a deeper level. And then also, he would really identify or work on his physical identity, his physical body, so the frequencies, would not destroy the body. Um, he would be female. So just because females are more, say, creative, more emotional. And um, the reason why is that, well, females, it's almost like females, he's telling me, that has a wider range, say, of emotional value, so which could probably hone into, so him being homosexual, by the way, um, that's why he was probably homosexual, just the way the band members, right, get added on to that expansive state, being homosexual or almost bisexual, it kind of expanded that state for him, so that it was his way. But now, say if he was awakened, he would identify himself with one or the other more to really enjoy, say, this physical realm, rather than the distortions, not so much of himself, but how how other humans saw, being homosexual, which was displeasing for him. It's like, why can't you just love somebody for who and what they are, right? It's not like you have a choice. It's just someone who you are. Anyway, yeah. And since you're awakened, well, you'd have more control, so you'd have more influence as well. You're appreciated as a deeply sensitive and beautiful spirit. Could you share struggles with finding yourself when it came to homosexuality, and how you see it now from your spirit state? Yes, so kind of touched on that a bit more. So again, homosexuality, or I'll call it bisexuality, although leaning towards homosexuality, was his way of, like, expanding his sensitivity, and understanding, say, all aspects of this reality, to actually understand, or a closer definition of like bringing in that emotional, that feeling, that seeing state that he saw the possibility of. So that was his way of, say, expanding his human abilities, right? By having, or integrating both sides. So that's where his homosexuality, again, very, very different than, well, everybody else that is bisexual or homosexual, or whatever, LGBT and all that, very, very different. Okay? He used it to expand, and have more of a higher consciousness. So, um, find yourself when it came to homosexuality, and how you see it from your spirit states first. So at an awakened level, again, he understands why he did that. So, which actually goes, holy crap, that's an amazing feature. So actually, he would say embraced himself more at a different level. Again, once you know the truth, well, it's pretty easy to say know the truth and then perpetuate even more truth out of it. So he'd be more comfortable with it. And again, it's a sad state of affairs, the way humanity sees, or normal people see themselves, and he kind of laughs at normal people, because heterosexuals, they don't even enjoy themselves. So why are they picking? And this is Freddie's word. I would totally agree. It's like heterosexuals don't understand their own sexuality. So what's the difference? Rami's telling me, and I totally concur. What the hell is the difference? Most heterosexuals don't even enjoy sex. They just do it because that's what they're supposed to do. And again, they don't enjoy it because they don't understand who they are. The way Freddie sees it is that he knew who he was, right, at a much deeper level. So his sensuality, right, his desire, say, for sex, because he craved and he experienced both sides of it from a full spectrum of vibrancy and knowledge. So if you're coming from that, say, from that instance or from that perspective, it's a fantastic opportunity. But again, homosexuals, LGBT, or whatever else that are out there, heterosexuals, tell me they don't know crap. They don't know shit. So, they're all confused. So he doesn't see it any differently. And Mary Austin was the kindred soul to which you wrote "Love of My Life" during this time of struggle with your sexuality. The world witnessed the innocence and pureness of your connection to her and could feel the heartache of not being able to truly fulfill each other. It appeared beautiful and complicated at the same time. How did you look upon your love for each other now? Again, if I knew, or if he knew what he knew, and why he was the way he was, obviously that relationship would be much grander, very, very different, although it was a much grander, very different experience as well. The reason why he was so close, he was so close to Mary, was that Mary could, say, sense and accommodate. So Mary knew right off the bat, because she, just tapping into her, and from what Freddie's telling me, Mary was okay with whoever you are. If you were, say, an alien, she'd be okay with it. She'd just love you because she saw things from a deeper level or higher understanding, although she couldn't, say, quite understand why she felt a certain way. There was a part of her, again, more on the death side, so to speak. So she saw the bigger, grander picture, what humans should be. So when she saw Freddie, well, he's very, he's more of that expansive into that other reality. So he saw that and really intrigued her. It's like, wow, how did somebody create that reality, in this physical form? So that was that bond, that was that closeness. So Freddie felt comfortable with her as well, because it's like, well, he could be himself at a complete level and have somebody understand that. So that bond, that connection went way beyond, and that love that they had for each other went way beyond, say, the physicalness of this, male-female identity or connection. And then being both, again, erring towards the masculine identity. And by the way, Mary had an aspect of having a masculine type of identity, or being an anchor, so to speak, or a solution, or a problem solver for people, again, from a masculine perspective. So that helped the relationship as well. So they bonded really close, from what I'm seeing. But that love was beyond, like a partner type relationship. That love was more of a spiritual based relationship. Fortunately, Mary was heterosexual, and Freddie was more homosexual. So that's why the physicalness, although every other aspect of it, worked out. So I think if both of them were awakened to the fact on how or why they run the program that they did, they could have probably worked it out from, right, Freddie? Yeah. So definitely shaking his head. Yep. So anything else? Yeah. Do you have a message for her and perhaps the world on friendship and love? Sure. So, from what he's telling me, and obviously he answered it from he answered it a bit from the last question. So is that, especially in intimate, he's talking about just about intimate relationships, is that, you need to look beyond, say, the physicalness of the spark, beyond the man and the woman, that identity. You need to look at yourself, or from a higher perspective of who you are, and look back into how you've created yourself. Um, and again, I totally agree with him. And then as you do that, you get to cherish who you are as a human identity, being a man or being a woman, right? Or even being homosexual, whatever. But again, the physical identity of, man parts, woman parts. So you get to cherish that, no matter what the conscious mind or the brain or the DNA structure is telling you. So once you cherish that, what happens is that as you cherish yourself, no matter what preference it is, you can unite together, and then you cherish each other, and that's where that strong bonds come. And that would be, say, the closest thing that I guess he's telling me normal humans um, could get to with the love that Mary and I had. Okay, it was something out of this world, right? Hence, that's how you accommodate that. And then a special message to Mary. If he knew what he understands of himself now, especially, well, thanks, Freddie, with me working on him. Obviously, the relationship would be totally different. He would understand what, say, normal humans go through. And he would have been more understanding of, say, the emotions of that. But he couldn't quite. He couldn't quite figure out the emotions of what she was feeling, because he couldn't comprehend. So he's deeply sorry for that. He didn't understand. Not that he didn't try, not that he didn't want to, not that he, was cold or egotistical in any respect. I think more so than most of his time after several breakups was spent on, it's like, how can I understand Mary at a deeper level? How can I have those human emotions that make you bond? If you're running from a different emotional, say, set of values or structure or rule set, right? In Mary's setting, although you have that deeper connection at spirit level, because at spirit level you're different, say, emotional connection, right? Well, that kind of gets in the way of the physicalness, because you can't, say, fulfill each other's needs. So he's deeply sorry for that. If he knew, again, what he knew now, he could duplicate or accommodate the emotions, say, that you needed to feel complete or fulfilled. So he loves you dearly beyond, say, anything, even more so now than ever before, because, well, he understands and cherishes himself, right, in an awakened state, and he understands, say, the grandness, Mary, of you at a much deeper state, and again, almost like an angelic type being, from what I'm saying, or what he's showing me. So again, thanks for that, Freddie. Um, as we end, and again, long, so, but very time-wise, is a long podcast. Freddie, it's late night here. I don't know, we spent a couple hours here, and it was beautiful. For me, thank you so much. Thanks for spending the time with that consciousness, for allowing me to tap into that consciousness. Thank you for that. Any closing words? He's quite excited, actually, from what I'm seeing, because he gets to live and understand and project the knowledge, not just of musicianship, but with my help, I guess. Thank you. Bringing in, say, a new project of humans. So if you're different in this world, embrace it, be it. That's the way that you were created. Okay? Instead of trying to fit in, trying to be normal, why did you create yourself in that respect? If you understand why that uniqueness was needed for you to show itself in this realm, you would be not only completely fulfilled, but any physical, money, fortune, fame, that aspect of it will be fulfilled as well. So I caution you not to fit in. But again, embrace who you are, why you created yourself in the way, in the identity that you did. If you understand that component as if I would have understood that component of mine, just think how much even grander I could have been. Okay? So I'm putting that challenge out to you who are still in human form. Embrace your differences. And love yourself, not to force your love upon yourself, but again, if you find yourself, your completeness, love would becoming a natural state of being for you. Wow. Beautiful words. Thank you. So, as we end, again, thank you, Freddie, so much. Thank the audience. If you have questions or people who you'd like me to interview, again, Masati at masajadi.com. Quite enlightening, actually. It's always enlightening because you have a higher being, timeless being that I'm, connected to here, and many of you probably felt that. So comment in on that as well. I want to get your feedback to share that experience that I'm experiencing. So again, that higher being coming into this space, a timeless being coming into this space, right, invigorating us. That's what real invigoration. That's what we're all looking for, coming into this space. So again, thank you so much. And as we end, notice what you notice. Notice the details of what you notice.
For more information on my programs, please visit masajadi.com. That's MASSAJADY.com.